Hey, everybody, welcome to 50 Conversations with 50 Strangers. And to be completely transparent, the woman that I have in front of me right now is not a complete stranger. I was supposed to meet her on a trip that I was going on around the world to sit with people of all different types on street corners, in libraries, in missionary places, in churches, in synagogues, in government offices, and corporate leaderships. I was supposed to sit with her on a trip that I was going to take around America, and I think she's in Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I am.
She's in Florida, and that trip never happened because Mr. COVID came along and said, this not now, not on my watch, not right this minute. And so when the opportunity came for me to have 50 conversations with 50 people, I was so happy that she said, I want to do that. I want to have that conversation with you. We were supposed to have that in person, face to face.
Hmm.
And so it is I know her a little bit through some interactions on Facebook, but I really don't know her that much. So I want to introduce you and myself. This is the first time I'm having a conversation with her. Susan Smith, welcome to 50 Conversations with 50 Strangers. And though you're not exactly a stranger, you still are a little bit of a stranger, so you can fit into the guidelines. How the heck are you?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
Holding in here, staying in place as much as possible,
Well,
wearing my mask.
yes, totally, right? Thank you so much for being here with me today and for
Mhm.
allowing us this opportunity to do what we were hoping to do in person. And hopefully we still will.
Yeah.
When I ask people how they are, it's so easy to just race over that question. And we say fine, and everybody goes good
Yeah.
because that's all we're really interested in hearing, most people. But I'm really interested in hearing a lot more. I mean,
Okay.
look at what's going on in the world. We have a pandemic that is keeping us isolated. We have a whole Black Lives Matter situation that is
Hmm.
making us reevaluate how we deal with people, how we think about people, how we treat people. And this came on just, not on the heels, but almost on the heels of a few years ago, a Me Too movement, which also made us reevaluate how men treat women and how women allow themselves to be treated by men.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the last few years, under nobody's microscope would they say it's been anything but a shaky ride.
Yeah.
How are you really doing within all of that?
Um, Most of the time I'm fine. I try to stay current with news and everything. I don't know if you follow Florida, but our numbers are climbing. So that's scary because I am in that age group that
Yeah.
could be affected. Um, Hopefully it's not going to happen, but it is scary what's going on around here. We just try to stay safe and try to enjoy ourselves as much as possible. I have another daughter who lives on the east coast of Florida, 3.5 hours away. We hadn't seen her in a long time, so we know that she's safe because she's been in her house since this started, her and her husband. So we decided to meet them in Orlando for an
Wow.
overnight, and it was great. But you have to know people now. You have to know who's safe. So it's not like it was.
It's it is so different. My I think you may know or you may not know. I have the honor of having a developmentally delayed daughter, and
Yeah.
she chose to live in a group home. And so I haven't been able to see her since
Wow.
March 1st. And she is everything to me. I mean, I
Yeah.
FaceTime with her every single day, but she keeps asking me, when am I going to, when am I going to, when am I going to, when am I going to? And she doesn't understand this COVID-19,
Yeah.
but it's so hard. But thank God we have these ways of being able
Yes.
to see each other, because I can see her every day at 10 o'clock. We FaceTime for 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's not like being able to hold her and hug her and love her,
I
but
know.
it's at least it gets us to see each other and show each other how much we love each other.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing about all of this is I try to look for the positives in everything. And what I've noticed is how creative people have gotten. I mean, look at the school systems, all had to learn online instantly. People celebrating each other. They're doing drive-throughs and honking horns and long lines of cars just to celebrate somebody. So there are ways to keep it to keep the joy in our lives for
Yeah.
sure.
I think I know you a little bit to know what you might say to this, but do you believe that situate not only like we need to listen? I know you agree with me that we need to listen more to the world around us and to people,
Absolutely.
right? But do you also agree that the world, the universe, the situations, our bodies, our work, our workplaces, our environments talk to us as well?
Yeah, definitely.
So, what would you like with all this is going that's going on? What do you think the world is trying to say to us? I mean, it's giving us numerous opportunities to think again. What do you think it's trying to say?
I I said, I forgot when it happened, but I think it was a couple of years ago when bad stuff was happening. I said that there's a natural flow to the universe and up and down, and I know personally, you're not going to change until you hit rock bottom.
Huh.
So I feel like the universe is getting us to rock bottom, and we can only go up from there.
Yeah.
Have we gotten there yet? I'm not sure. It sure feels like it sometimes, but I'm not 100% sure. So I think that all this noise, this negative noise, is at some point, and I hope it's in my lifetime, going to make a difference, because it's going to turn into, hey, we can't live like this anymore, people. We got to
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it.
I love, and I think there's so many people that agree with you. I think, and now it has to just move from the intellectual to us
Hmm.
actually doing the things that make a difference. It's one of the reasons why I'm having these conversations because I show up and I have no idea who's going to come. I don't know if it's going to be sometimes a person's name is Chris or something like that. I don't know if it's a man or a woman.
No.
Sometimes it's Alex. I don't know if it's a man or a woman. So I don't have any idea who's showing up. In your case, I knew you a little bit, so I knew who's
Yeah.
showing up, and I was so happy for the
My
opportunity.
cat is
There you go. So, um, for people who don't normally when I do a podcast, I have a biography and all that stuff. But this is strangers meeting strangers. So what who tell people who you are and what's important to you.
who I am. Geez, where do I start? Well, I had a 40 plus year career in the IT industry. I was blessed in 1973 to be given the opportunity to join to be trained by my company at the time as a programmer. I was one of the first females. It was very, very male dominated back then. In every classroom I stepped into, I was the only female. And I was really blessed because, I don't know, male geeks love to share their knowledge. There's no competition. So
Yeah.
I was blessed to have a lot of great mentors back then. Um, and then so I've worn several hats in the IT field. In 2016, I lost my job. And that's when I decided to sell my house. I grew up and lived in New York my entire life, except for early on. Um, Sold my house of 31 years and moved down to Florida to
Wow.
be, both of my girls were already here. So I figured that was a good place. And when I was planning to move, I was looking for work down here. When I moved to Florida, I realized I didn't have to work. I could retire.
Wow.
And so, and then
Was
my
that because
granddaughter,
cost of living in Florida was less than cost of living
oh my
in
God, yes, yes.
yes. Wow.
Um, and then my daughter became pregnant with my first granddaughter.
Congratulations.
So thank you. So that's really what I've been doing in the past almost 4 years. She'll be 4 on September 1st. So I've been uh, living my life, enjoying my life, reliving childhood through her eyes, and it's wonderful.
What a
No
blessing
stress,
for
no bosses. I answer to nobody except her.
that's
Uh,
right. But what a gift for your daughter to have you there with her, because so often in this world that we live in, we travel and we leave destinations, and people end up doing that all by themselves. So, what an honor for you to have your granddaughter and your daughter there with you, and for them to have you there with them.
Yes, I should also mention in my previous life, back up in New York, towards the end of my stay up there, I think the past maybe 10 years, I was the leader of a support group, divorced and separated people. And it was a very successful group. We had a lot of activity, a lot of members. It really was, it's when I found my purpose, um, up there doing that and leading that group, and being able to impart knowledge that I had been given by other people who walked before me. That was very, very rewarding. I enjoyed it a lot.
And do you carry on that in Florida or not so much
I
now?
haven't yet. I keep saying I'm going to start a group down here, but it's not. I don't want it related to specifically divorce. I already have the ideas. It's going to be called "Let's Get Real," and we're going to sit around and we're going to talk about the stuff that we want to talk about. You know, no fights, no political, no religious stuff,
Right.
but your life in general, and how we can support each other, because there's a lot of people down here that are a lot of older people my age that are away from their families. They've moved down here to retire. They're not with their families, and they really don't have a support system other than themselves, and their
Yeah.
family's far away.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of more of a, let's just get together and chat.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
I think it would serve a marketplace that wants that, right?
Yeah.
What I'm finding even from these conversations is that in sitting together with strangers, much like it happened in my book, The Mosaic. I mean, I'm really
Hmm.
following the guide.
Yeah.
When I was going to come to you, it was because I was following the guideline of The Mosaic, which was, and you know, because you've read it, and you've
Yeah.
and you've been kind enough to share your thoughts with it.
Hmm.
Um, but when we talk to people and we just allow people the space to say who they are, something magnificent happens.
Yes.
Because we live in a world where all too often we don't get a chance to say what we think because someone's
Hmm.
already opposing us, or someone's saying, "Why do you think like that?" or "Why?" or "That's not what I think. You're wrong." Or you're when you
Right.
just hold the space for people to be able to say whatever they want to say. That's what this is all about.
Yes.
Let's go to a lightning round real quick. Okay.
Okay.
I think I know the answer because I saw one pop up in the screen. Are you a dog or a cat person?
Yeah, cat.
Yeah, I saw, right? Uh, are you a coffee or tea person?
Coffee.
Coffee. And would you say you're someone who fits in a box or you're someone who's out of the box?
Uh, I fit in a box, but there's parts of me that stick out.
Okay, I like that. So not totally contained by the
Right.
box, right? Um, in the world that we live in, do you think it's more important for people to be able to speak their voice, or is it more important for people to be able to listen so that other people can speak their voice?
Wait, what was the second one? I'm sorry.
In a
My
world,
laptop speakers are really low. It's bad.
okay, no worries. In the world that we live in, do you
Okay.
think it's more important for people to speak their voice or to hold the space for other people to listen, and by listening to other people speak their voice?
I think it's more important to listen to others, but listening is not an easy skill for some people.
Wow.
I it's through listening that you learn about the other person.
Yeah. So let me jump out of the lightning round for a minute because that
Okay.
intrigues me because I'm all about listening, even though I'm learning myself how to do it.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's hard for some people to listen?
I think people are shut off from their feelings, or they're not so much shut off, they're afraid of their feelings. I'm a big follower of Brene Brown, also in
Yeah,
vulnerability,
yeah,
and everything she says resonates very strongly with me, and with the work I did in the support group, it resonated very strongly with the people I met and worked with through that. And so there's much truth to what she says, and people are afraid to be vulnerable because that word has a very negative connotation,
wow,
where and I understand why. Nobody wants to get hurt. And when I did this work with my divorce group, I would always hear, how am I ever going to trust again? How am I going to, I'm never going to get married again. I'm never going to date again, whatever. And it's all because people are afraid. They're afraid to be vulnerable again.
yeah,
And there's a lot more behind the vulnerability. You have to learn to trust. You have to learn, who to
yeah,
trust. And
yeah.
so it's not an easy answer to that question.
Well, I know in my life that the pains that I've had through the life that I've lived have also made me, it isn't so much that I'm scared to be vulnerable, because I'm pretty
Hmm.
vulnerable and upfront with people, but I am scared. I notice that I'm I love so many people and people love me, but the people closest to me I don't let get too close sometimes, because
Mm.
all those people have 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 something bad has happened to them. And so
Hmm.
there was an unconscious belief system for a long time in my head that I can't let you get too close to me because something bad will happen to you. And why would I want that? If I love you, why would I want that to happen to you? So
Right.
I'm going to keep you a little bit apart. And it's hard to change that, even with my wife, who I love her more than anything.
Hmm.
I there's a little bit of distance that I hold because I don't want, God forbid, something bad should happen to her.
Mm.
The only one who's bypassed that is my daughter somehow. And I don't know why, because it's almost as if like every bad thing has already happened to her already and we still are there.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's interesting that you said. I was also part of a really wonderful church back up north, and we had a women's retreat every year. And during the retreat, we had several different topics to talk about, and then somebody talks about it, and then everybody else discusses it. And I was given the topic of intimacy,
mm,
and the intimacy had three parts: intimacy with self, intimacy with others, and intimacy with God. And so I had to, talk about each of those and how each of those fit into my life. And the one about intimacy with others, um, what I realized is that the same as you, I was afraid if I said too much, they would then think bad about me, because
mm,
now I'm telling them everything, all the
yeah,
bad stuff. And it took a long time for me to get through that and to realize it's because we all have an evil twin. We all go to that place in our heads when somebody pisses us off and we say nasty things about them. That's our dark side, but it's still part of us. And I think what people are afraid of is well, if somebody sees my dark side, they're not going to love me anymore. They're not going to like me. But the thing is everybody has that dark side.
yeah,
And if we all accept that that's just a part of us,
yeah.
then it becomes, oh, okay, that's my dark side speaking again, my evil twin's at it again.
I love that. I think years ago, I realized I wasn't smart enough to remember who I had to be with, who I had to be with.
Hmm.
And so I just said, I'm just going to show up as I am. And if people like me, great. And if people don't like me, great. Oftentimes I'll say, oh, you don't like me, stand in line. Like
Right.
you got to, there's a line here. Don't, yeah. But there's something beautiful to being, I know the moments that I'm vulnerable with people, it isn't like I thought it would be. People are so supportive of me when
Yeah.
I'm vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they see me and they say, "Oh, great! I have an opportunity to help you back. And
Right.
can I be there for you? And can I just sit with you? Can I lift you up? Is there anything I can do? Can I help in any way?" And oftentimes I'm not even looking for help. I'm just wanting to share
Yeah.
who I am. And many of the times the people who are the most beautiful to me are those people that say, "I just get it and I'm here for you. If you ever need anything, I'm here." And I think what happens when we have conversations like this, when we start to open ourselves up to have conversations with strangers, suddenly what they believe no longer matters because we've become friends. Like some of my friends have the most fakakta beliefs you'd ever want to imagine. I would never believe what they believe,
Uh-huh.
right? Right?
Yep.
But they're my friends and I love them. Even with my
Right.
family, some of them are just like I would never believe like they believe. But they're my family. I love them.
Yep.
And nothing. I would take bullets for both those groups of people, even though I don't believe what they believe.
Right.
But in a world where we don't have that relationship, all we know is our beliefs.
Yeah.
So I disagree with you, and you disagree with me, and then we yell at each other, and then we try
Yep.
and right. Um, Back to the lightning round. Do you
Back to
feel
what?
back to the lightning round because I
Oh,
got
okay.
distracted? Okay, and I don't even
One,
know.
one, I do
Go
want to
ahead.
comment on something you
Go
said
ahead,
about,
please.
when you finally are vulnerable to people. The
Yeah.
other the other positive out of that is when people see you being like that, it gives them permission to be the same or to take
Yes.
that chance.
Yes.
So it's a good thing.
Yeah. I think I think there's something beautiful in holding the space to be ourselves by being ourselves and allowing other people to be themselves.
Yeah,
And there's something just inherently sacred in that that is I haven't found anything better really.
yeah,
It's the seeding ground for true relationship, for true love, for true things to happen and allowing that to happen.
absolutely.
Did I ask you this or I don't remember? Do you Oh yeah, I did ask you
Sorry,
that.
go ahead.
No, that's okay. Um, do you think you are ruled by your head or your heart more?
Well, being in the IT field for over 40 years, I'm a very, very logical person.
Yes,
Um, but I think they work together now, finally. So that's probably a good thing.
I love that. I'm
Because
gonna go.
I've always felt that there's a reason for everything. And I mean, sometimes you don't get to the very specific reason that something happens, but there's a reason, there's a lesson in that, in finding it, and that becomes the reason.
Yes, beautiful. Would you say you're a leader or a follower?
I think now I'm a leader. Once I
Okay.
found that after working in that group, I
Let
think
me
I always should have been.
let me dive deep into that again, okay? And let me bring a current event situation up that really interests me so much, and I don't really understand it. Politically, our country is almost at a civil war, and when I look at the different sides arguing, it is so rare to see our leaders. These are our leaders,
Yep.
right? It is so rare to see our leaders be able to say, "Look, I really believe in this side of the equation, but what you just did is not right."
Hmm.
Right? Or to have the other side say, "We don't really believe in what you're doing at all, but you have done some really good things."
Hmm.
It doesn't seem like anybody is capable of really being a leader and standing up to the momentum of the flock of going of bringing truth and honor to the silo that they're in.
Yeah.
And so sides just fight each other when really there's answers that if we would just listen to each other, like I can't say I'm the biggest Trump supporter in the world. I really don't like much about him. But sometimes I just say, give the guy a break. Like he's done something. He's done some good things. Like give him. Like he'll say, "Well, I stopped the people from coming in from China in January," and nobody even gives that any credit. They just say, "Well, you didn't do anything from January 30th until March 1st, right?" Um, but like, give somebody credit for credit due. Like, you did that great. It's just the problem is you didn't continue that on, or whatever it is. But there are
Right.
other things like that. You know what I'm saying? But
Yep.
nobody has the courage to stand up and really be a leader and go against and bring, not even go against, but bring the silo of the world that they live in to a more central place rather than being on the sides.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Can you be that leader?
Can I be that leader?
Yeah,
Oh, I
amongst
got
the
too many
silo.
skeletons. I don't want. That's why I don't go there. Um, I don't know, Danny. It's the way the U.S. has been dividing and dividing and dividing more. I don't. I don't know how one leader is going to bring it back. I think it's got to be at least two people with differencing opinions
Yeah,
getting together and finding a common ground.
yeah.
And and for me, that's what a good leader is. A good leader doesn't dictate. When I ran this, I say I ran the support group because it was a meetup group, and the payment to meetup came out of my checking account.
Right, right.
But I always had three other leaders, co-leaders, and there were on the team were two females and two males, and I wanted that because I didn't want anybody that was going through divorce to say, oh, that's a women's group, or oh, that's a
Right.
men's group. I wanted them to see that, and when we had issues, the four of us talked about them, and
Yeah.
so that's what's important with a leader, is not to be the only one that, yes, sometimes you do have to give the final answer, but you listen to your people and you trust them that they're giving you good advice.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it's going to
S-
take. But I don't know how that, doesn't fit into the um, the tree of the presidency.
Well, you know, a lot of what I'm trying to do is create a nonviolent revolution,
Yeah,
a revolution where people listen to one another, a revolution where we, the people, come together and start to say, enough is enough. Like we love to follow leaders when leaders lead us to a place where we want to go to, but we're being led by both sides
yeah,
right now to a place that is really not where we want to go to. Like I'm probably lean more to a Democratic point of view than a Republican. I probably lean towards the anti-Trump
yeah,
camp more than the Trump camp. And yet I have to say I'm embarrassed by some of the things that Democrats do. You watch CNN and there's like a nonstop attack on this guy. Like anybody, if you were my friend and all I did was attack you, you would stand up and defend
right.
yourself and right and try. I mean, it's just human nature, and I don't see why we don't get that. Why can't we give the dog a bone sometimes? You know,
I
some
know.
right. And we
Yeah,
don't. And the same thing with the Republicans to the Democrats. It's not.
no,
I mean, there's just nobody leaves the silo, and so one of the things that I really am trying to initiate, even through these conversations, is what happens when we leave the silo for a minute and we just walk into the open field and just say, tell me what you think. You have every right to believe what you believe. Let me hear it. Let me listen to you. Let me accept it and acknowledge it. It just isn't what I believe. I don't have to believe like you believe, but I want you to know I acknowledge you
yeah.
and validate you for believing what you do believe. Do you think that would lean towards a more generous society, or
Well,
what do you
I
think?
think if it's prefaced like that, yeah, probably, hopefully. Um, but then the other thing I struggle with is so many people are so deep rooted in their hatred and anger towards a certain group or
Yeah,
other groups. My brother, who passed away a couple years ago,
sorry.
was very, very bigoted, and I remember him spewing off on just how horrible black people were.
Hmm.
And and when he did that, I tried to change the subject because it wasn't worth getting into an argument because I
Right.
know he's not going to listen.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I had tried that in the past in
Yeah.
in subtle ways. And the thing was is that when he was in the hospital and he was attended to by black people, oh, they're great, and like
Right.
he didn't live what he spoke.
Right.
And so I don't know. It's like how could you reach somebody like that?
Yeah.
That's that's where it comes from. That's deep inside him. And would he be able? No, he was never able to hear a difference. He was never able to see a black person as a human being. He still saw them, whatever, however he saw them.
Yeah.
So
But I
there was
think
a lot of he had a lot of mental, issues because of. I mean, that's why he was the way he was, because
yeah.
he was depressed, he was alcoholic, he's a Vietnam vet. There was a
Yeah.
lot going on. So how do you get those people?
So let me see what you think about this because it's something I truly believe, and it's something I was taught by my developmentally delayed daughter. And it's remarkable to me how much that girl has taught me. Um, she doesn't have the ability to have a conversation like this. She can't speak clearly, and when she speaks, people don't understand her.
Right.
And so she has a hard time speaking. For a lot of times, she just stayed quiet. But she counts on me to understand her. And I would always be amazed because I would go to her school and she wouldn't say anything. And with me, she was just not like a chatty Cathy. Not that I could understand everything, or not that we were talking about philosophy, but she would just talk.
Right.
And I would go, I wonder why she doesn't act like she does with me into school. And they'd said, well, because you're like, who you are, and we're here and we're not. But what I realized is, even with me, sometimes I just couldn't understand what she would say.
Mm,
And when I couldn't understand what she would say it louder,
mm-hmm.
thinking that I just didn't hear her. But it wasn't that I didn't hear her. It was just the clarity of it wasn't good. And yet sometimes when she said it louder, she changed the way she said it a little bit, and I got a word or two that I didn't get, and I understood it, right?
Mhm.
But most of the time, that wasn't what happened. Now
Yeah.
she was just screaming something that I didn't understand, and it was building up to something else, which was a tantrum that was coming right down the line, right? And
Yep.
and that tantrum would come, and it could happen in the midst of any moment in time, wherever we were. We could be in a restaurant, we could be at a friend's house, we could be walking down the town in town, we could be taking a bath, we could be doing whatever we're doing. I could be giving her a bath, and she would just get that frustrated that she wasn't heard. And when that didn't work, what she would do is she would come running at me and try and rip my shirt or bite me.
Mm.
And I thought I was a fairly intelligent guy, but I couldn't figure out what was the heck was going on. And this went on for probably about 15 years.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen every single day, but it happened sometimes. When it happened three, four, 10 times a day.
Wow.
Finally, in the midst of her rage, I looked at her and I said, Elisa, you know I love you more than anything in the world. You know I want to understand you more than anything. I just don't understand your words. I'm not trying not to understand you. I want to understand you.
Mm.
I don't understand your words. Will you try and talk to me without using your words? Will you try and find another way to communicate me that doesn't use words? Let's see if we can find a new language.
Mhm.
From the midst of her rage, she got this smile that just melted my soul. And I thought, what the heck is going on? And she looked at me and in perfect English, she said, I am daddy. And I said, you little creep, what in the heck are you talking about? You are daddy. How are you doing that? And she put her little finger to her head. And what I understood from that is because her language was delayed, her ability to telepathically communicate was actually enlarged.
Yeah.
She was putting thoughts in my head. And I had felt that from time to time, but I just didn't trust it because I didn't even know if she was capable of thinking those thoughts.
Wow.
And I said, you little son of a gun, are you putting thoughts in my head? And she laughed like you're laughing, but imagine all of the stress of trying to communicate that and now having somebody hear it and the freedom that comes with that. She went into uncontrollable laughter, which was became
Mm.
so contagious that I just started laughing with her. And we sat laughing for 5 or 10 minutes, which felt like, as soon as she would stop, she would hear me laughing, still continuing, and she would get caught up in it, and I would do the same. If it would have, from that moment on, Susan, she never yelled again. She never
Yeah.
tantrumed, and she never attacked.
Mm.
If that had been the whole lesson of it, she would have taught me more than anybody I'd ever met. But it
Yeah.
wasn't. I said to myself, I wonder if the rest of the world does what my daughter Elisa does. And I started to apply the principle that I learned with her of listening in corporate meetings that I was having, in government meetings that I was having, working with the military, working with other families. And what I saw is that every single person did the same thing.
Yeah.
When they spoke and they didn't get heard, they yelled. When they yelled and they didn't get heard, they created a scene. They created chaos. They created havoc. When the scene didn't get them what they wanted, they tried to attack something. They either shot people in a town square, they
Yeah.
blew up a building, they ended a marriage, they destroyed a company, they tried to destroy the reputation of somebody. And it was all because they just weren't listened to.
Yeah.
So I believe the answer, and I'm interested in your thought because the reason I'm talking and telling to you is because you just said I don't know how it's possible in the climate that we're in. I wonder if you believe, like I believe, that if we were just to take the time to sit with each other and say, not fight what the person says, not try and change the subject of what the person says, but just try and say, hey, you know something? Tell me what you really believe.
Mhm.
And I just want to hear it. Like, I'm not going to fight you. I'll hear you out as long as you want to talk, but you don't need to talk for too long because you can tell me what you're saying in a few
Yeah.
sentences or in a few minutes, and I'm open to hearing what it is you want to say. So tell me now, what is it you want to say? And I've done this with people who said, "Well, Danny, you're the reason why I'm feeling so mad." And instead of standing up and defending myself or rationalizing it, I've said to them, tell me more.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about that. And just pour it all into this little container. In my book, The Mosaic, that's the trash man. He just says, pour it all, put it all in the trash can.
Mm.
Just let it all come in. And the beauty of that moment is for one moment, maybe by doing that practice with somebody, they can feel what it's like to no longer be holding on to all of that stuff
Yeah.
because now it's in a trash can over here. And they can experience themselves for one moment without all that stuff making them not be themselves. Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And so that's the revolution that I really want to start.
Yeah.
A revolution where people spend time to listen to each other, even in the most difficult situations.
So I mean I know that that's what your goal was for the your traveling plans.
Yes.
Um, how were you going to find people to come and talk, speak with you?
So right now, in the past, I would put messages on Facebook or social media and say I'm available to speak because like I can't go out. So will you please speak with me? And crickets. Nobody. It was like nobody gave a darn. Who's going to?
Mm.
What am I trying to do to him? What am I trying?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
this thing that I did now with 50 conversations with 50 strangers
Mm.
has somehow had a magnetic appeal to it. And I'm having 8, 10 conversations a day
Wow.
where people are just saying, I just want to talk. I just want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And so I talked to someone who was in marketing. He said, well, what you did is just genius. 50 conversations with 50 strangers. Everybody wants to see what another person thinks. And so I had a conversation with someone who on the street, if I would have met him, we probably would have just sat and yelled at each other.
Yeah.
But in this environment where we sat, we it was such a beautiful conversation where he explained to me what he thought and he listened to what I thought. And we didn't try and change each other. We didn't try and do it. We just accepted each other. And he said, I walk around with a gun. And I said, I know you probably do. That's okay. Why shouldn't you? You have a right to protect yourself and
Hmm.
protect your family, right? I'm not against that. Like I would protect my family too if I needed to,
Yeah.
right? So there's nothing wrong with that. Like I'm not I'm because I hug a tree doesn't mean that I'm against what you're carrying a gun, right? You
Yeah.
can do whatever you want. Anyway, what do you think the world's trying to say to us?
Help.
Help.
I think it needs help. I think it needs some compassion and a little love. And I just think I think too many people are floundering in how to get that done. And I think that's what we all want. We just all want it a different way.
Yeah. What do you think the world is saying to you?
Oh, that's a good question.
Every once in a while, a blind squirrel catches a nut, you know?
I know. I mean, what is it saying to me? I think it's just because of where I am in my life. Um, I think it's just saying, just enjoy what you've got left. You never
Yeah.
know. I'm going to start crying. Life is too
Oh,
short. We've lost too many people that we shouldn't have at a young age. And to me, that's what the world's saying. Just, you can't wallow in all of that negativity. You gotta, I never believed that God put me on this earth to suffer. And I
right.
don't believe he did that to anybody. And I think people need to find their ways out of whatever suffering they're in. I mean, I did that earlier on, and that's where I am today. I went through a very traumatic childhood, and I am actually thankful for that because it made me who I am.
Well,
And now
well,
is my time to shine.
yeah. So shining now, shining,
Yeah,
standing in that shining moment, enjoying the world that you have around you
yeah,
for as many
I
days,
do.
months, years as you have left to do that. What do you want to say from that place to the world at
I'm
large?
sorry.
What do you want to say from that place to the world at large?
Take a breath. Chill. it, all the fighting's not worth it in the end. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
We got to love each other.
fabulous. Do you have a website or social media links if
No, I
people want
don't.
to
Just
get?
my Facebook page.
Okay. So will you send me the link to your Facebook page if people want to get in touch with you or
Okay,
people want to have a
sure.
relate and
Hmm.
and so and that's fine. You're willing to make new friends, right?
Yep,
Okay.
always.
Always so fabulous. Um, I want to thank you seriously for this moment, but for all the moments that you've just been kind enough to support me over Facebook and just in the ways that you do. And I want to tell you how much it's meant to me that someone that I never knew and really didn't ever know would open up her home to me when I would come to if I were to come to Florida, right? And just allow me to be there and bring people together and do that.
Yep. It's
And
still here. The room is still vacant.
I, I so appreciate that, and it's that kindness of spirit that is what I believe we all have
Hmm.
for each other, and we've just somehow some of us have just forgotten it. We've gotten too caught up in the differentness of who we are rather than
Yep.
the likeness of who we are. So I thank you for you. I thank you for showing up here today to be with me and to open up and be vulnerable and have an honest conversation.
And I
And
thank you too for inviting me and for doing this.
it's my honor. It's my honor. I hope the day will come soon when I can sit with you and go out for a coffee or a meal together.
Are you
And
coffee or tea man?
I am coffee.
Okay.
I don't drink tea. But I'm a dog, not cat person. But I
Oh,
like
okay.
I'll put up with cats. It's okay.
Well, as long as you're not allergic, there's
No,
three here.
I don't think I'm allergic.
Okay.
Um, so those of you who are listening, I want to thank you also for coming and listening to these conversations. And I want to invite you again, I have in every episode, to reach out to somebody who you don't know, or even reach out to somebody who you know and you haven't talked to in a long time. Place that call. Just ask them how they're doing. Give them an opportunity to open up with you and share with you what they believe and think. I think together we can change this world by just doing simple little things like that, holding the space to allow people to be who they are.
Hmm.
Barbara, thank you again. I mean, I'm sorry, Susan, thank you. Sis Barbara was who I spoke to in the last hour.
That's okay.
Susan, thank you so much
Yeah.
for taking this time. Um, People who are watching, thank you for giving us your time. And until next opportunity where we speak to one another, stranger things have happened
Yeah.
than talking to a stranger. Take the opportunity to do so. Did you want to say one more thing? I sort of thought of
No, I just want to say again, thank you. And I like that last line, stranger things have happened when talking
yes,
to a stranger. That's a good one.
yeah. So I appreciate you and thank you again. Okay.
Okay.
Until next one, we'll see you soon.